Hey, everybody, I'm Corey Rennie, the Unemployable Counselor, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about feelings. No, but more particularly our own feelings about our own place in the world and how we see ourselves compared to everybody else. And I think those viewpoints can really determine if one is successful or if they aren't successful or if they struggle. And also, too, you have to think about what's the end game in all this, right? So I'll look at it this way. So in a previous video, I had entitled, "But I'm here for," then insert righteousness here in the parentheses, right? And the reason why I framed it like that is because it doesn't matter where you work or what you do, there's always people that are always like, oh man, this wouldn't work if not for me. They need me to do this. I need to oversee this because only I can make sure it's done. You notice the I statements in there? It's not a good I statement. That's, I am the only one who can fix this problem, right? That leads into our own ego and how we view ourselves. And I think it's a little more deep-seated than just, I think I can do this. I think either there's something behind it, as there usually is, whether it's some sort of event or trauma or whatever you want to call it. There's things that motivate us on the path we're on. And in order to feel good about ourselves, we have to see that through. And that's for the codependency piece. It's about what other people think of me. I can't just sit here and let this injustice go. Well, what injustice? Okay? What is the end game to what you're doing? I don't think there... In a lot of cases, in my working experience, there hasn't been one. It's been self-gratification in the moment. You need to recognize me because of this. Okay? Or you don't understand the full story. Only I can tell you how the full story, right? Those sorts of things, right? Now, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to start talking about narcissism or, self-inflated ego maybe. I don't know. But I find that when you're working, ego gets in the way. Or if you're doing something, ego gets in the way. Or if someone crosses paths with you and you believe that they don't know what they're doing, so you have to take it upon themselves to educate them without asking them or talking to them, but making assessments and judgments based on where you're at in your life with your stuff. That's what a lot of this is based upon. It's tough to step out of yourself and look around and kind of make, an objective call on things that are occurring if you're stuck in a certain place. And I mentioned this in another video where I believe people can only go as far as they've gone themselves or where they're stuck. And that could be with addiction. Like often you see people who drink. They started when they're 15 and they drink for 30 years and they stop. A lot of times they're thinking and it goes back to almost like they're that 13-year-old kid again or 15-year-old kid, right? Because that's when they stopped drinking. That's when it got stunted. So a lot of times, if we're working in places where we feel like we're underappreciated, nobody listens to us, we start taking that on ourselves. Oh, how can you not recognize how great I am? I can't believe this person is saying this when I'm the authority here, right? I find those things happen quite a bit in the working environment, and they do. And I mean, we've all had situations where you've worked with a staff member and you've been like, what the hell? What is the point of this? What are you hoping to accomplish? Right? The Dark Knight Returns, Alfred said to Batman, some people just want to watch the world burn. And sometimes I think that's true. Because especially if you're trying to champion a social cause, but you're doing it in one of the most negative way possible. So you have to figure, if that's the case, what is it about that's bringing that out in you? What is it about the other person that is provoking this reaction? Okay? A lot of times is it misunderstanding? Yeah. Sometimes you can talk to someone and misinterpret or think they said something. When it's the written word, it's a little bit different. Because, connotations, those, that's kind of tough. And I mean, how do you determine what is someone is saying through written word? But oftentimes, when you're watching or you're talking to someone and they have a different point of view, that doesn't mean that you're wrong or they're wrong. It just means you have a different point of view. And if you feel the need to educate in a negative way, then that's not helping either. That's being mad because they're not recognizing how your opinion is the right one, even though it might not be. You understand what I'm saying? So I look at it like that, especially in the workplace when you're working with individuals. You're like, wow, that's not my job. That's your job. No, we have the same job. Okay, things like that, where it's like, okay, we're doing the same job here, but I need to do this before you because this is really my job and you know better. Things like that. And I mean, like, maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe people just have a hard time coming to grips with stuff that's happened, whether it be a lost job or things closing or, whatever. Relationships ending, whatever the case may be, that they get mired in a fight all the time. And it has to be a fight because you have to be right. That person has to be right. If they're not, and if they're not acknowledged for being right and they get the high fives from whatever they're looking at for their ego, okay, I can understand that. We've all been in situations where we want to be right and we want to get the positive strokes when we are, and it'd be like those haha moments or whatever. But sometimes things are just as they are. And just because you have a different point of view or you disagree with someone in the workplace doesn't make them wrong, doesn't make them the enemy, and it certainly does not give anyone the right to attack them. So I find there's a whole lot of that going on lately, and I just don't understand why. What's the end game to that? It's clear that, if you're doing that, then it's clear that you're getting something out of that negativity. There's something feeding it in you that promotes that behavior. I don't know what that is. Like I said, it could be something happened in the past. It could be, some unresolved issue. Maybe it's alcohol and drugs. Maybe it's mental health. Who knows? I said before, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm an unemployable counselor, right? So I look at things like this. Everybody has a past and a place that they came from, and things happen there. So when people come up in a very negative way in the workplace, especially when it's people you just meet, and you're like, what, did I do something to you? Right? But it's like, what's the end game? If the end game is just to cause havoc and throw dirt at people, okay, then what is it about you that you need to do that to feel good about yourself? That's the way I look at it. It's not a righteous fight. Okay, I've worked with many people in my life, and I've seen all kinds of things like this come and go. And it's just like, why even deal with it? So when that happens in the workplace, what do? If you're the guy who's getting the brunt of this, well, there's two things. You can confront them, right? Do your conflict resolution steps. Confront them, say, like, look, this isn't okay. I've heard you saying this, blah, blah, blah. And if it goes nowhere and it continues, then you would have to go up the chain. But at least you took that step first. If it's some bullshit like online communities, just block them. Like, there's no point in engaging people behind a keyboard. There's none. In a workplace, it's a little bit different because it's professional and you have to do it appropriately. If you don't, then you're both at fault, right? Something happened, you react, manager will have to come in and deal with that fallout. And usually it'll fall on both sides, not not the instigator. Because often the instigation is it. I got under your skin. I got you upset. I got this guy nailed, right? All this kind of garbage. Right? And if you're investing that much time and effort into another employee, again, what does that say about you as an individual? Again, what's the end game? What is the moment where it's like, I feel good, I can rest now, right? Why is it always a fight? What happened to keep that going? Yeah. It's interesting, I tell you, because a lot of the people I work with and talk to, and I've worked, like I said, I've worked at different places, and I mean, I worked at Burger King when I was a kid. I went to school, and I got a job with health, and I got a job doing different things there, and I've worked in nonprofits, and that's just the way life goes. So, I mean, we take an experience, we learn from it, and we move on. Some people can't move on. Some people are stuck for whatever reason. And you can't even be mad at them for that because they don't even realize it themselves. Right? Like, seriously now. If someone's yelling at you every day for something you didn't do or whatever, you don't even know the person, are you gonna reach you can try to reach an olive branch, you can try to be like, hey, look, no disrespect, right? You can try to end it. But if it keeps going, then what's the deal here? What's the payoff? You're mad about something, and it's not me, or it's not you, it's that person. That person's carrying that around with them for whatever reason. Okay? So when that happens, like I said, you can go through the appropriate channels, or you just ignore them. You can just stop talking to them. They may run around shooting their mouth off, but people like that usually have that following around with them, so they know that it's not necessarily a trusted source or a reliable source. It's just people yelling in the dark, and I've seen that at a lot of workplaces, and it kills a lot of workplaces, right? Sometimes it's about just getting some power. I have power to do this, so I'm going to do it because it makes me feel powerful, even though you don't have any power, right? Powerlessness is one of the worst things to feel, right? That's why it's so hard with addiction. If you believe in the disease model and you go to AA and you do those sorts of things, right? Powerlessness is a huge thing. You have to admit you have no power over it. Some people don't want to do that with anything because they have to have the upper hand. They have to be in control. They have to be right. And that's unfortunate because they're missing out on a whole lot of things in the world because they just can't move off that. And in a workplace, that's hard because you have choices to make too. You're working there for you, not them. If they want to act that way, then you can treat them accordingly. Typically, honestly, if you can do it and the conflict res doesn't work and you go up the steps, you don't have to engage with them except when it comes to work-related things. That often works too. You can be professional. You can not like somebody and disagree with them and still be respectful. I think that is the piece that's missing a lot of the time. If you disagree, so be it. But not everything is an attack, and not everything needs to be a fight. And not everybody watches till the end to see these nuggets of wisdom. But I do think that as time goes on, people see that the only person it's hurting is you. Running around and bad-mouthing other people. Maybe short-term it works. But long-term it's feeling like, oh man, all they do is talk smack about everybody, and it's not even true. Right? Or if you think you know somebody, and you don't, or you want to try to dig up shit that you think, or whatever, man. People do weird shit when they're backed in a corner and they feel like they have to have a trump card. You don't have to. Some people are just assholes. Okay? It's just the way it is. And, yeah. We've all had jobs. We've all worked with these individuals, and it's up to you how you want to handle that. But we can't all just quit our jobs because someone's an asshole. We can't just, not go online because someone's an asshole. We just, those sorts of things. We have to be able to work with that. And you can be open to it, but there's a line too. There's a line, right? And I mean, like, if you're making personal attacks when you don't even know a person, that's way worse. Or you think you know a person, what, because you disagree? Again, why? This went a little longer than I thought, but I wanted to touch base on these things because, man, that's one thing I found, especially since I've opened myself up to online stuff and doing a lot more interactive things. Comments are good and bad. Surprises me the length that some people will go, but again, like I said earlier on, they can only go as far as they've gone. So if they're stuck somewhere, how do you get angry at that? Hope they find peace. That's all we want for everybody. Right? Like I say at most of my videos, look, man, we're all in this together. So we've got to try to get along. You can not like someone and still be nice. You can disagree with someone and not be a dick. Right? And if you want to go looking for a fight, go somewhere else. Right? I'm trying to look at a lot of the positives we have to offer. And I know there's a lot of negativity here, man, and we got a lot of issues. And I've talked about that. Like, go downtown and walk through, you can see the issues. But crying and pissing and moaning over stuff that you have no control over, and then when like at work, you can either, like, what, are you going to fight the guy? No, that's ridiculous. No one here is 12 years old. Well, maybe some people are, I can't see. But no one here is a child, no one here is a kid. What we're doing is trying to work together for a greater good, and I don't get when people don't want that. It makes me think that some people are just content to live in that chaos. And I've been in work environments where people just talk smack and cause trouble, and then sit back and watch it unfold like there's some sort of Machiavellian genius, and all they're doing is killing the workplace for everybody. They can't see beyond their own actions. And that's probably why they're in the spot that they're in. Okay? Like, I don't know how else to say that. At the end of the day, you are responsible for yourself. And if you're unhappy with yourself, then do something about it. But trying to take down your coworkers or anybody else because you're unhappy, it's very cowardly. And it's not addressing the issues. Because no matter where you go and what you do, it's going to follow you. Because you're not addressing it. You're just moving. Okay? So, I'm going to wrap her up at just under 17 minutes. If you stayed this long, congratulations. Hope it wasn't too rambly there, but this is something I've been thinking about for a while, because people need to realize that there's other people out there besides themselves. And if you're only looking for that narrow view of what's been done to me and you don't know what's going on, then you're never going to get another opinion, and you're never going to move, because you're not seeing anything other than you. And that's what kills the workplace. And again, codependency. What do you think about me? You need to think I'm a hard ass. Why? Why is that important? Why is it important that people need to think you're an authority over someone else? These videos are not about me saying, look what I know. This is about stuff that I have questions about, that I like to talk about, that I think there might be other like-minded individuals out there, so I'm hoping to connect. And I'm hoping to grow the channel. That's my motivation. And homelessness, the community, workplace issues, landmarks around the town, right? And 1 minute social stories. 1 minute social issues, I should say. I'll take a minute and we'll talk about something specific, and we'll keep it short and sweet, because for me it's a matter of just putting a little bit light on those dark corners so people can look at them. People more qualified and smarter than I can figure out those things, but I like to think that I at least can do my part, and when I see things that I think need to get addressed, I can bring it up in a forum like this. Okay? This channel is not about disrespect. This channel is not about racism. This channel is not about violence. This channel doesn't condone anything like that. It doesn't. That's not what I'm about. It's not what my team's about. And most certainly the people I've talked to have had wide different opinions, but they're not about that either. So I think it's just that small population that needs to have that powder keg, that have that fuse, with them holding the lighter saying, I'm going to blow this up. I'm going to blow it up. Well, for what? Like, seriously, for what? You need to look at your own motivations and maybe grow up a little bit. We've all had to do it. Me too. Right? Like, it's just the way it is. I don't even know if I am grown up yet, but it's like I'm trying every day to be a better person, and I think as long as everybody does that, then we should be working towards the same goal. Unfortunately, I think some people like being in the chaos. They like being in those cracks of society where they're not accountable, but yet can point their fingers and try to make other people disappear or whatever. Yeah. Some food for thought, man. I've always said, if you can't say something nice about someone, don't say anything at all. And that's kind of what I'm at. So, I mean, there's some groups that I'm leaving just because, who needs that stuff? I can get my message across in a positive way. There's always going to be negative naysayers. There's always going to be those kind of things. That's okay. I invite that. But it's like some people just go above and beyond for no reason. And that happens in the workplace too. Just because I don't like something, I'm going to burn this place to the ground. Some people like to watch the world burn. All right. Corey Rennie, the unemployable counselor. I lied. It's a little under 20 minutes. But I really appreciate you sticking this out, because I think this is something that impacts everybody, especially youth with the online communities. I don't have any respect for that kind of stuff at all, because it's cowardly. then it's cheap. And if you're fighting that hard to make other people look bad, then you're not fighting for anyone other than yourself. And you can't say different, because where's the proof? Alright, Corey, unemployed counselor. Like, share, and subscribe. I like doing these videos. I got a small community. They seem to like it. And let's keep this going. Alright, you guys take care and have a good night.